Hey, and welcome to the Meditations and Musings podcast. I'm Elena Lipson. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of the Divine Self-Care Circle membership and the Virtual Retreat Academy. I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your body, your health, or your family in order to create true abundance and prosperity. I believe in living based on the divine feminine metrics of success, and these include pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. Each week, I'll bring you 1 to 2 new episodes. One of these will be a guided meditation that you don't have to do on the meditation pillow, and the other will be a conversation to help you access your inner wisdom, to ignite abundance, and inspire others to do the same. I invite you to join me on this journey back to the magic of a divinely aligned and well cared for you. And now, join me for today's episode.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Divine Self-Care Meditations and Musings podcast. Today I have a really interesting episode that I think is going to challenge you in some ways, to invite you to reevaluate what you think about age, to reevaluate what you expect of yourself at this stage in your life, and how you envision yourself going into the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of your life, depending on how you connect with your body, with how you connect with age, and what you think is possible for women of a certain age, quote unquote, a certain age, right? So before we dive into that, I wanted to remind you of the 66 sacred rituals. The feedback has been coming in from those of you who have decided to start your inner work, your rituals journey. And I'm so excited to say that the feedback has been phenomenal. I think the simplicity of how I created the rituals is the key thing here. So if you are someone who is ready to start to recommit to a spiritual journey, someone who wants to get very simple daily instruction, audio prompts on how to really reconnect with your heart, your mind, your body, your soul in very simple, profound ways, and to build your toolkit of rituals that you can tap into when you are wanting to reconnect, to get realigned, when you are wanting to hear your intuition more clearly, when you are wanting to feel present in your body, as you know, instead of being in your head all the time. When you want to be in nature in a way that feels like you're getting divine downloads and inspiration. That is what the 66 sacred rituals is all about. As soon as you sign up, within 24 hours, you have access to the first ritual. And then every day after that, for 66 days, you get a new ritual. So you don't have to do them all at once, and you can basically do them in your own time. But the way I built it out is that you try one every day, and you start to download the ones that become your favorites. You take them with you. You can listen to them on your phone, on your computer, wherever you are. If you are wanting to try it because you're a listener of this podcast, I want to gift you with a coupon code for $10 off of the program. So all you need to do is go ahead and head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And once you check out, don't forget to enter the coupon code. It's super simple. It's just podcast. That's all it is. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment. Find me on Instagram, Elena_Lipson, DM me, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions in regard to the 66 sacred rituals. So let's go ahead and dive into this whole age thing. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm in my 40s. I'm 43 as of this year. I always have to remember. I usually have to remember based on my son's age, which to me is a really good thing. I don't really stop to think about my age all that much. I really try hard, and I knew this when I was younger. Somehow it landed in my head. I didn't want to buy in to any expectations around my age. Now, when I was younger, it was very important for me not to buy into those age expectations because I was usually the youngest person in the room in terms of my jobs. I applied for jobs that I wanted, whether I was qualified or not, because of my enthusiasm, my personality. I usually got hired for jobs that I might have even been underqualified for. So that's when I learned really early on not to buy into the social expectations, right? So I was a manager of a beauty salon when I was just barely 21. After that, I went back into the corporate world. For the next decade, I was in the corporate world, but I was usually climbing pretty quickly. I didn't buy into that that being a manager or going into whatever level of work I wanted to was going to take a certain amount of time. I just kind of went for it. I put my head down and I just did the work. So I was a senior corporate trainer by the time I was in my mid-20s. And I was, again, usually the youngest person in the room. And so I had to very quickly understand that it was all mindset. It was all how you show up. It was the inner confidence that would drive everything. It was the curiosity. It was the willingness to learn. It was the way I connected with people. It was looking people in the eye. It was the way I showed up, from my clothes to my posture to the words that I use, to just showing up and being willing to not know and learn, but also know what I know and really claim confidence and responsibility for what the work that I did do, that I had done and brought to the table. So I valued myself beyond any certain number. I didn't think like, oh, I can't do this until I'm in my 30s or my 40s or my 50s. I just totally did not buy into that. And there are so many incredible examples now of people, teenagers, little kids doing stuff, starting nonprofits, having access to technology and doing things that people never thought before. And I'm not just talking about those few brilliant, super high IQ kids who go to college at, in their teen years. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are creative and confident and don't use age as a limit in what they want to do in their life. So today I want to really focus on you as a woman, because I'm assuming I have mostly women women listening to this podcast, but there might be some men out there too. And this definitely applies to everyone listening, but it applies to any age, because wherever you are in life, there's probably some perceived limitation that you're putting on yourself based on how old you think you are. First of all, the biological age and chronological age, those are two different things. There's the biological age, which is how old you are based on how many years you've been on this earth. I'm sorry, that's the chronological age. And then the biological age is how old you feel, how old you would test at a doctor's office, but also how much energy you have and how young your body feels, right? So it's a very different measurement than how many years you've been here and how you're supposed to look and feel at that age. So this episode was inspired in a couple of different ways. One is, first of all, I am in my 40s and there's lots of stuff coming up around expectations of what 50 is supposed to feel like or 60 is supposed to feel like. And I just don't think that way. And when I find myself thinking that way, I find myself feeling the limitation of society or of things that I've heard in the past. I don't open beauty magazines very much anymore, but when I do, it's still pretty persistent that most of the models are very young and very thin and very perceived in a specific way and hired for a specific reason and put out a specific image, right? So even like the oil of Olay ads that are supposed to be meant for anti-aging, which is a term that I hate, first of all, are all really young models. So they're not really dealing with wrinkles or whatever we're supposed to be thinking about. Like, who cares, right? So that's the first thing is, for me, I'm learning to, or have learned to, unplug from those images in a way that doesn't affect me in not liking who I am, right? Because liking who you are and being comfortable in your skin at all sizes, at all ages, is beautiful. You radiate when you're comfortable, when you're aligned, when you're not trying to change yourself in any way. Of course, there's health things that you want to do, and there's, you want to be healthy and walk and do yoga and things that are important to you. But in terms of trying to mold yourself into some external societal expectation is when we start getting into that tricky space of self-loathing, of self-deprecation, of just not really liking yourself. And that is probably the most unappealing way to walk through the world, to yourself and to those around you. Right. So the reason that I was really inspired by this is because, as you know, if you have been listening to the show, I've been doing Zumba for several years, and I've been dancing since I was really young. And then I stopped dancing for a while, and I actually love dancing, just the music, the movement. I feel alive. I feel like I could dance all day long. I love teaching dance and movement at my retreats. And I don't mean like the, professional, get it right kind of moves dancing. I mean, just like being in your body. I mean, feeling sensual, feeling pleasure, feeling alive, right? Whatever does that for you. For me, it's dance. I just absolutely love to dance. I could dance for hours. Like, sleep doesn't matter if I'm out dancing. I don't do it very often anymore, but I just recently, I went to my brother-in-law's or I think it was a year ago or so, I went to his birthday party and I was like, oh gosh, I wonder if I'm going to be tired by 10 o'clock, like, or 11 o'clock, because that's my bedtime. And no, I mean, because there was a dance floor and there was really good music, I literally was the last person on the dance floor. I could not get enough, because that's my zone of joy. It's my zone of like being in my body. And I just felt so good. Right. So I like everything evaporates. I don't care about how the dress fits or doesn't fit. I don't care about anything. I just like take off my shoes and go. So when I go to Zumba class and I do this, 2 to 4 times a week, depending on the week, there are women in that class who are in their 60s, 70s, and a couple in their upper 70s. And they are so inspiring to me, because they are they're giving it as much as I'm giving it. Like there's no age distinction. They're having an incredible time. They are feeling amazing. And that to me is how I want to live, right? So these are women who are not buying into, oh, I'm 75 and I can't go dance Zumba. And it's not like they're in the back of the room being all quiet. Like they're at the front of the room doing their thing. And that to me is so inspirational, because to me that says, screw the anti-aging industry. Screw how I'm supposed to be acting right now. Like, forget the grandma who's sitting in her rocking chair, sewing or knitting, whatever. Hey, if that's you, awesome. I totally get it. But times are a changing, right? Like there's no way to be at any specific age. So that means that whatever your definition of being 40 or being 50 or being 60 or 70 and 80 and beyond. And I know, as I keep doing this podcast episode, I'll know, right? Like right now I'm in my 40s, and that's a very specific perspective. But I have women who are in my circle who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And we have these conversations, and I'm telling you, these are some of the most sensual, wise, experienced, incredible women. And to put them in this rocking chair is just insane. I mean, what I love to do is I seek out models. I seek out models of people and women specifically who are busting those myths. And we're going to get into a little bit of that. So today I wanted to give you 5 specific ways to screw the anti-aging industry and to really get into this ageless way of being. And a really good book on this, and I'll put it in the notes, is Dr. Christiane Northrup wrote a book called Goddesses Don't Age. And it's I'm pretty sure that's the title. It's a little having a little bit of like, is that the right title? But I'm pretty sure it is. I will put it in the notes. So Goddesses Never Age, or Goddesses Don't Age. And she has been one of these amazing women who now, I believe she's in her upper 60s or 70s. Sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but she just started Pilates. She's like writing books. She's out there physically. She's gorgeous from the inside. Like you can tell she's definitely got good genes going for her for sure. But you can tell she's got a curiosity. She's got a joy. She's got this light in her eyes, because she's still growing and creating and rediscovering what it means to be vital and gorgeous and amazing and sexy and sensual at any age. So I love that there's a few women out there speaking this, not very many. Most of the things you'll see out there are anti-aging, telling you all of the wrinkles you're supposed to not want, and telling you how your neck is supposed to look and your belly's supposed to look and your butt's supposed to look, and blah, 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 right? All of that. So I want to give you a couple of ways to really start thinking about this. Again, this is just a conversation where I want to bring you to the inner world of your perceptions around aging and how you might be holding yourself back in ways that you might not be aware of, and just to really reiterate how incredible you are and how we need to screw the anti-aging industry, because we get to define what it means. In fact, one of my favorite models is this woman named Yasmina. And I follow her on Instagram because she's in her 60s and she is full white hair, gorgeous white hair. She's in amazing shape because she's been a model all her life, but she's definitely not perfect. And she's not the typical woman, that you'd see in these ads. And yet there she is. And there are so many examples of women. Now I'm talking about just physicality right now, but the inner part of aging is really where the juiciness happens, because when we have perceived limitations about what's possible, when you find yourself saying things like, I'm too old for this, or it's too late for me, or oh, I could never try that, or my mind doesn't work well anymore, or I could never learn something new, I have bad memory. Whatever that is, those are all stories. Those are all false illusions that you are telling yourself. And if this is your wake-up call, so be it. Because if you want to try that new thing, learn that new thing, write that new book, do it. Seriously, when is going to be the right time? Like now is the right time. Just because you're a certain age or at a certain phase in your life, you are telling yourself a story that is false. And I'm calling you out right now. It's never too late to start something new. Can you become an NBA player? No, that is not my point. My point is, what does your heart call for? What does your soul call for? Aging is inner work. It's a perception, right? So here are 5 things that I want to focus on. First, realize, wake up to the fact, if you don't already know this, which I'm sure you have had a sense of this for sure, is that there's a multi-billion-dollar market telling you how you're supposed to feel at every age. And even those articles, like I love Oprah, adore Oprah. Truly, if you know me, you know I'm a big Oprah fan since I was in my teens. But even Oprah magazine can do a lot better. There was an article about how to look or feel or whatever in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And, while it had some good advice, and I totally get it, it also, just even the title of the article indicated that there was a way you're supposed to be and feel and act and dress for optimal whatever in every decade. And I get it. It's coming from a good place, but also it pigeonholes people. Like, who cares? Why am I supposed to wear this kind of lipstick or this kind of hair or that kind of clothes? Like, there's a difference between someone who's trying too hard to be something that they're not versus someone really expressing who they are, and it just doesn't look like everyone else around them. Okay, so I really want you to understand and start noticing the propaganda around aging, even when it comes dressed in a beautiful article by someone that you adore, which if I was sitting across from Oprah right now on Super Soul Sunday and we were talking about aging, the inner work of aging, I could only speak to it from my perspective, of course, and she would speak to it from her perspective being almost 60. I believe she's 58 at the time of this recording. So I don't know what it's like to be her at 58. And I would have this discussion, like, what does it really mean to create assumptions? Like, she has broken every boundary there is in professional life, in what women can do and how she built her business. So why put boundaries on what women are supposed to do and feel and act and wear at a certain age? So I would love to have that exploration with Oprah or anyone else who wants to. Not a problem. I have no problem being challenged. I have no problem having discussions. This is my perspective, and I'm always open to growing and learning. So the first is realizing that there is a multi-billion-dollar market telling you how to feel. That's the first step. Once you realize that, you understand that maybe some of the beliefs that you have implanted around aging and what you're supposed to be, do, and look like are false, and start to define them for yourself. There's a lot of money going into helping you to feel bad about yourself, so you can buy the cream that's supposed to make you feel good about yourself. So it's a big money-making machine. So I want you to have that awareness. Once you have that awareness, some of that pressure starts to lift, starts to release, and you start to understand that the most incredible beauty product that you have is inner joy. Because joyful people look youthful, look vital, look happy. That to me feels like a magnetic power, like a superpower. The second thing is to decide to reclaim your age your way. If you have learned somehow that you're not supposed to wear skirts that are short or wear heels that are high, I mean, whatever, heels is a personal journey. I personally only wear them very infrequently because I just can't seem to walk on them very much. But if there's some rules in your head around being a certain way, around a certain age, do that work. Like, maybe open your journal and say, what do I feel about being, or what are my assumptions around being this particular age? And if you're about to hit a milestone and you're feeling any tension around that, what are your assumptions around that? What do you think is going to happen? Let's acknowledge those things. I'm not saying to deny them. I'm saying acknowledge them, but also understand that they might be sourced from some outer message around what that age is supposed to be like. So the more you can start to look for models of people who are busting those myths, who are saying, screw the anti-aging industry, and look phenomenal, feel phenomenal, and are living in an aligned way with their soul's purpose, that to me feels like a very powerful place to be. So number 3 really is a spinoff of number 2, and it's stop buying in to how you're supposed to dress, act, and feel at a certain age. It just is simply not true, like at all. Again, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, the possibilities, the potentialities, the resources, the capabilities of starting a business, of creating a product, of traveling the world, of meeting new people, of thinking new ways, of learning new things is absolutely unlimited. The only limitation is in your own mind. That's it. And I will challenge you at every turn. If you are someone who feels like you have that limitation and make excuses for yourself, I am not the person to buy into that. Zero excuses. There is so much out there. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take anything else except your own inner decision to say, I am ready to try something new. Yes, I will go to that dance class. Yes, I'm going to travel. Yes, I'm going to have a conversation with a new person. Yes, I'm going to write. Yes, I'm going to whatever, right? Whatever that is. This life is so precious and so fleeting in a lot of ways, and very long if you're misaligned. If you're not living in a way that feels good to you, it can feel very, very long. And no number on a scale, no number on a birth certificate, no number in your own mind is gonna be more powerful than the decision to say, I don't care what the world says I'm supposed to do or be or feel. I get to decide. That is powerful. Number 4, again, define your age for yourself. Some cool examples are out there. I mean, there's so many myths out there that only certain age people can do certain things. I say screw that, right? Screw the anti-aging industry. I mean, Louise Hay, the founder of Hay House, who is my dream publisher, or one of them, I have a couple, she started Hay House in her 60s. Her 60s. Like, if you think you're in your 30s or 40s and it's too late for you to do something new, use that as a role model. Go read her life story. You might have heard of Little House on the Prairie, right? Laura Ingalls Wilder. Well, she didn't publish her first book until she was 65. Dude, 65. And then she went on to publish 12 more, and some of them were even published after her death. So 65 to write her first book. I recently saw this amazing video, and I can't remember her name. I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. But she started ballroom dancing at 85. 85. And there was another woman who was 92 and still teaching yoga, and she was super flexible and super joyful. I mean, yes, she was wrinkled and a little older, obviously, but her life force, her prana, her breath, her joy, she was incredible. What a freaking inspiration. So please find examples of people who are doing what you want to do or similar things or had similar challenges, and just find it. There's this great show on Netflix, and it's escaping me right now. I will go look for it and try to add the link to the notes, where all these women were in their 60s and 70s, and they were being featured for being their own individual selves, how they dressed, the work they did, the kind of writing they did. It was all incredible. It was so inspirational. I think it was even women in their 80s as well. We need examples of women who are experiencing pleasure and joy and creativity at all ages. So if you can't find that example, be that example. Be that for all the people in your life. Redefine what it means. It's never, ever too late. Until you're dead, you have an opportunity to change. Okay? Okay, number 5, and here's the how-to. This is the how-to part. This is the how of being ageless, of understanding that you can screw the anti-aging industry and decide to redefine aging or life on your own terms. And that is to play, to try new things, to have a beginner's mind, to stop buying into the BS of the perceived limitations of society. And you may have to find some new friends. You may have to not speak it out loud until you're really in it, because the second you start talking about it, people around you might be like, well, you can't do that. So that's why you have to hold on to these things like you're holding a little treasure in your hand. Don't go to the people who you know are going to counter your idea. If you want to start something new, but the people around you would never do something like that, of course they're going to poo-poo it. But you need to find like-minded hearts and souls who are doing and creating and seeing possibility and not letting excuses of perceived limitations stop them, right? So joy and play keeps you young. It just does. If you can have this vision of yourself in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, of still playing, of still trying new things, learning a new instrument, and forget it. Like, I hear you already. You're like, oh, my mind could never learn a new instrument. I can't remember anything. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe that's just a story you're telling yourself. Maybe you do have some physical limitations. I totally get that. But you can find examples of people with no hands, no fingers, no arms, all kinds of things, doing things out there, who could easily be home in a dark room and sitting there saying, I can't, I won't, there's no way. So don't let age be a handicap. The only handicap that we all have, that we all buy into, is our own perceived limitation and the excuses, the stories that we've bought into. Now, I'm not saying that doing this work is the easy thing at first, because you have so many stories in your mind, so many illusions about how the world works and how things are and how you should be, and blah, blah, blah. But that's the inner work. That's the work that I do with my clients. That's the work that I do with the women in my inner circle and in my membership circle, in the Divine Self-Care Circle. It's the inner work. It's the breaking boundaries. It's the busting those myths. It's to redefining old perceptions. It's to stopping to notice that your thoughts are just a story. They're all stories. Everything is a story. And so if you can recognize that, you could start questioning your own assumptions and beliefs around aging and what's possible. So I hope I've given you something to think about. Let me review those 5 things really quickly, just in case you have missed one. The first one is to realize that there's a multi-billion-dollar market telling you how to feel at a certain age. Number 2, decide to reclaim your age your way. And that might take some digging around. You might have to really think about, like, grab a journal and decide, what does that mean to me to be this age? And start noticing the assumptions that you have. Number 3, stop buying into how you're supposed to dress, act, and feel at a certain age, and let yourself explore. Try new colors, try new clothes, try new books, try new opportunities, try Zumba. Hey, it worked for me. It's awesome. Number 4, define your age for yourself. Look for some cool examples of counter mythology, right? Actual people like Louise Hay, like Laura Ingalls Wilder, like Vera Wang, who didn't even start her company until she was, I believe, over 50. So there's always examples of people doing things that are counterculture. And that's what you want to look for, and hold those examples as a shining light for yourself. And number 5, and this could be the most important one, is to play. Get on the ground and play. Go jump some rope. Go dig in the dirt. Go try new things. Have a beginner's mind, because joy and play keeps you young inside, right? And that begins to resonate and come through the outside. And then people will look at you and say, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Now, I didn't mention some of the physical self-care practices that I'm assuming you understand, right? Like, get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water, eat whole foods, lots of plants, right? Organic food, those kind of things that are a given. And we can do lots of episodes on those kind of elements for sure, the physical self-care practices. But today we're talking about the inner work of aging, of anti-aging, and saying screw that to the aging industry. So if you have specific questions around physical self-care, I'm happy to answer those for you, or get you resources if it's not something I can answer. But I want you to start questioning your assumptions around aging And even that word just feels like, oh, what comes up for me when I even say the word aging, right? Now, again, if you're looking for some cool rituals to reconnect you to your intuition, to really start feeling like you're in your body and your sexuality and your pleasure centers, I really invite you to check out the 66 Sacred Rituals, because I've infused a lot of this vitality, a lot of this energy, the energetic work, the energetic practices of being in your body into the 66 Sacred Rituals. So that's a great place to start really feeling like you're doing something for yourself in a new way that maybe you haven't done before. So again, elenalipson.com/gift. And again, don't forget to use the coupon code podcast when you check out. All right, y'all, that is what I have for you today. I hope you were inspired by this conversation to start questioning your assumptions around aging and to understand that you are a cosmic being of unlimited potential. And to start questioning your own assumptions is where we start to activate the magic, the potential, new opportunities, new ways of seeing life, because this life is a gift. Your body, your wellness, your perspective, your thoughts, those are all things that you can start to shift out of the old ways and start to wear a new way of being in this world, one that helps you to become someone who inspires those around you. That's what I want for you. That's what I hope for you. If you haven't subscribed to the show already, I invite you to do so, to share it with someone who needs to hear this message as well. Maybe someone you can have a conversation with around this topic as well. And I'd love it if you would leave a review, share it with your community. And of course, I'll see you on the next episode of the Divine Self-Care Meditations and Musings. This is Elena Lipson, your Divine Self-Care Mentor, and I have so much gratitude for you being here. Go take care of yourself. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening and learning about the new Divine Self-Care way of being in your life, business, and the bedroom based on the divine feminine metrics of success: pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. If you're ready to bust the myth of overwhelm and tap into an inspired start to each day, I've put together a free video series for you to help you start each day with energy, inspiration, and ignite that inner pilot light which attracts joy, magic, and synchronicity. You can access my 3-step magic morning practice to help you ignite your inner light and attract the abundance that you're craving. Head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would so love if you share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, and please leave a review. That is how the magic starts to ripple out. Here's wishing you a day full of beauty, magic, and divine self-care. I'll see you next time at the Meditations and Musings podcast.